remember that gays are changing my voice with other whites and Jews and LGBT people and token minorities. I am not gay, and I would never be gay, and I do not consent to them covertly changing the sound of my voice. And since they're doing this for their sexual agenda and their control freak sexual sadist agenda, etc., it overkills that their spirit is a rape cult spirit. And for them to try to defend that means they're like some kind of psycho rapist that refuses to change as groups. Okay, so as the end comes, because they're changing my voice in a way that makes it so I sound gay, and they've done it past a certain point, and I've run out of options to kind of avoid that. Okay, and they're fuming and poisoning me. Things are coming to a head, and soon, certainly they'll have caused my death soon. A huge part of the story is that I triumphed over these people. Big time. I mean, my life is the greatest. I'm the most proud of my life, of anyone that ever lived. I'm very happy that I've done the right thing, that I didn't live in the construct, what have you. And their spirits are homosexuality mixed with erotic desire. You know, when you think about whites, English, Germans, Americans especially, it's all those spirits, especially where their cultures are gay, and it kind of, the gay is like the yeast of the fairy sea, and it mixed throughout their whole kind of races and so on and so forth, and then from there it mixed throughout the rest of the world. And the world is hopeless. And every group, every race, after my flesh dies, there's no hope of a decent life. They're just using stupid psychology, what have you. So a woman has to receive true love in the Royal African Falcon Martial Art Order, okay, to have true love, or else they're just playing a weirdo game kind of thing. If you think about it right, there's a reason why Obama seemed to be the most normal of the presidents and among the most normal of the celebrities, because he was mulatto. It's not because where he looked kind of funny or where he was a conformist. That's weird to be a conformist. There's many a weird conformist, right? In a sense, Elmer Fudd is a conformist. In a sense, Bugs Bunny. I mean, there's a bunch of weird spirits and weird ideas out there that are completely compatible with the idea of being a conformist. And conformist, it's the con. It's not normal to be a con man worm who just follows the crowd. It's common, but that's not the same as normal. And of course, in the word normal, you have scrambled in there as moral. So Obama kind of reminded people of someone more like me. And again, I don't have a single gay bone in my body. Nothing about me seemed gay at all. Okay, when they changed my voice, it was to their extreme disgrace. I can't imagine being as big of a failure as they are. I mean, just total fail. Just unbelievable. They made the biggest and worst mistakes in history out of sheer beta cowardice. So, keep in mind that you should watch the rest of this on low volume. I'm just going to put these clips there. There's a little background noise at times. You can also see the annotations and ask me questions. But the kind of bottom line is, other people couldn't make love the same way. And I describe why that is, right? A woman has to receive true love in the divine order. At this point, the only chance a woman has to make love is to make love to me. I go as far as to say that. Okay? And basically, it's pretty safe to say that will never happen. And it's because of a bunch of racist whites, Jews, LGBTs, because of English royals, a bunch of Freemasons, a bunch of gays, rich gays, corporate guys, jealous Jews, jealous church people. I mean, first and foremost, be very suspicious and know that anybody who tries to look good, especially in a suit, anybody who tries to use Western culture to kind of seem ideal, know that they're a fraud. Anyone who tries to do their James Bond thing, their Lucifer from the TV show, the nice restaurant, it just, they're so disgraced. Anyone who tries to have a more romantic situation or wedding, just know that they're fake as hell. And they're disgraced. And God resents them to the extreme, and I resent them to the extreme. And there's no hope for them, and it's stupid to reproduce them. Okay, and also know that everyone's cut off after my flesh dies. So I'm going to go ahead and put the rest of these clips here. It's very disturbing that these people, while they're raping kids and they're tricking their girlfriends and their wives, and they're coercing people in the military, and they're forcing people to date people, and they're threatening their family here and abroad, and while they're doing all this sick stuff, that they're also messing with my videos. Okay. There's no way for God to bless America ever again, because God would not betray the righteous by doing that. What they have done here is the final destruction of all hope for God blessing America. And the government should at least have the basic decency to immediately stop suppressing my videos so everyone understands the situation they're in. So the least the military can do, they don't care about the people, they let them be raped and killed and robbed. The least they can do is sacrifice their lives trying with all their heart to get these videos out, but they're not going to do that. Because they don't believe in actually doing what's right and actually honoring the Christ and the righteous who have fallen in this country. They just believe in conforming and joining the racket and exploiting and raping and robbing and cheating everyone every chance they get. Truly, it's a capitalist military, it's a capitalist police force, it's a capitalist pig military and police force. And it's a very sad day when people think it shouldn't be said. How many people should get raped and killed and robbed and drugged and abused? How many people should be under extreme mind control and gang stalked before you people realize that your entire country has betrayed you, except for me. My parents are blameless. And the people who swore an oath to defend you and try to defend your rights, they're scrambling with all their heart to take away your rights and to destroy you and your souls and your family's souls. It's sick. A huge part of the story is that these people are rapists, and they try to turn people into rapists. And why that has to do with the unholy marriage of pedophiles and people who believe in erotic desire and homosexuality. Bear with me now. No offense to homosexuals. For the sake of the YouTube rules, I'll say that. We see that, when it comes to making love, the righteous man who goes beyond everyone else needs a beautiful woman who is feminine. Not like these modern feminists, okay, and these corporate people, they're like gender neutral, kind of boyish build, right? Baby line boy build. But someone who is feminine, who when he comes into contact with her, when the energies are there, the spirits are there, she's receiving the Spirit of God and in submission to the Spirit of God. So this kind of feminist bullshit where they try to take charge in the bedroom, it's nonsense. Again, this is important or I wouldn't bother to talk about it. Well, basically, God is love, and that means heterosexual true love in the divine order, okay? Where when it's me, it has to be this certain type of beautiful woman, right? And I might read scripture before, I might do things a certain way to set the stage for a divine interaction and mingling of the souls, okay? In erotic desire, that doesn't occur. Porn stars, it doesn't occur. All your marriages is not occurring. Using mere psychology and social norms, meeting each other and living social norms. Controlled opposition groups, being a hermit, no matter how you slice it, that stuff doesn't allow for that divine lovemaking. Playing R&B as someone in the ghetto who's outside the divine order doesn't allow for it. Being some English royal or some rich corporate guy after a nice dinner doesn't allow for it. You have to be in the divine order. Those things don't, by themselves, bring about the experience. You have to be focused on moral precision and true love, and it has to be righteous and right, and you have to be right, and she has to be right. So one thing that comes to mind, I'm going to use them as an example because, they did enter the battlefield more than most people. There was these 4 Filipinas that come to mind who are nearly identical looking. One of the things they've done in my life is familiar faces. One of them was at a church in East San Jose, at a Carmelite monastery, okay, in the hills in East San Jose. One was at Webb in Claremont, California. One was on the internet. She was from Vallejo. She was on Tinder, I believe it was. And the other one was in a hospital, okay, by some guy who was like, he was a hospital, chaplain or Christian representative of some kind. And she was his assistant. All of them communicated to me that they would reject me. The one on Tinder or whatever it was who matched me, I was astounded that she matched me. She was like part black, part Filipino, but she looked nearly identical to these other ones who all of them had a very white hue to their skin. They were very white skinned, right? Like glowing like the moon damn near, okay, without glowing that much, but a certain glow that I'm sure you've noticed yourselves in some women. Maybe it's the lotion they use. I don't know how they achieve it, but it's this kind of what seems to be a natural sort of white glow. Now, Keep in mind, all of them are related to nerds. And I'm not trying to bash these women. I wish they did the right thing. Okay? It took me a long time to really think of them as someone who's ruled out from being a suitable helper. Okay? And I think that because of the trajectory of this thing, it's safe to say that that is a fair assessment. That's a righteous evaluation. That's a just analysis. Okay. And where they go wrong is a mixture of cowardice and greed and a kind of siren effect. The sirens in mythology, were a metaphor for a woman who is dancing to the devil's tune or singing the devil's tune or in tune, in accord with the devil's tune. So she's like this beautiful woman, but she has a devil way to captivate you, to bewitch you, to charm you, right? It's witchcraft, but it's witchcraft in terms of being alluring, an alluring mistress of sorcery. But her spirit is using the spirit of the devil, so she's prostituting the essence of her femininity, the essence of her ability to have sex, to live, her sexual energy, what have you. But the core of it, her soul, to the devil's spirit. Now, they're probably going to change my voice to make it sound corny. Focus on what I'm saying. Okay? And keep in mind that at this time, everyone else sounds cornier than fucking shit. It sounds cornier than my corniest video. Between who they are and how they sound, it's just my father and I, and that's about it. Okay. So when I look at her, what gives it away is when I think, hey, when it's time to do God's work in my soul and my instincts and God's message communicating to me through the extreme sabotage of the state, what do I get? In this very serious situation, I get that you would reject me. You would say, hey, that you can't do the work of God. That is ridiculous. I said, why? I said, when I look at it, I say, why do I get that? What about their fruits? The fruits of their spirit. The fruits of their spirit says they're scared. They're being coerced. The fruits of their spirit said they're too greedy to give up whatever they're afraid of losing to do God's work. And so at the end of the day, that nerdy part of them, right? Demon is odd men scrambled. And odd men, RNA expression, their patriarchal line. Okay, the RNA brings about more gene expression from the male. They're not necessarily masculine. Okay. So when I look at that person, say that person's afraid, that person's greedy. That person to some degree is like, wow, but I see that part of her that's like, in awe, that's extremely suppressed by the part of her that is afraid and too greedy to give up her flesh-based desires, like her desire to save her family's flesh, perhaps, or her job, maybe she's been poor, maybe she has poor relatives in the Philippines, what have you. She doesn't want to give that up and do God's work. It's like a baby that doesn't want to transform and develop into a young adult and then to an adult, what have you. Okay, so she doesn't want to break free from that test, which is a clear-cut test, right? Selfish is see flesh scrambled, and selfish. Are you selling the fish of God, so to speak, because you see things in terms of flesh? Selfish. So she's selfish/greedy, and she's afraid, and she doesn't have a warrior kind of soul and genes to kind of break free. This is why not to reproduce with nerds and craftsmen. If they don't have enough warrior to come into the divine order, okay, and be a warrior and cultivate moral intensity, when they breed worms who are afraid to do the right thing. And I'm not necessarily, will say for the rules on YouTube, calling these people nerds, okay, these women, but there's this nerd expression that they're unable to overcome. And they refuse the tutelage, the direction of the Messiah. Directly. They're disobeying a direct order from God's Spirit through my soul to them, saying obey and stop being a worm. You see what I'm saying? So that denied me the process. When I look at this thing, and again, you don't even know what these people look like. They're like a part Jew, part Filipina. They're probably about 5'7" or so. Okay. They have a certain build, maybe about 100, 150 pound or 40 pounds, kind of slenderish build, right? Okay. In the 38. So, long hair, long black hair. And then, 3 of them, I believe, were like really white skinned. Now, let me just shoot through this here really quickly here. So when I think about, hey, if I try to get you to obey, we're rolling together, what have you, we go back to some place, some bedroom, some hotel, my place, your place, whatever. And, I try to make a move on you. What's going to happen exactly? Well, you didn't submit to God. So if I got that far, I probably have to, I'd have to finesse it to the extreme, right? It'd be very difficult to, to win that person over without that person submitting. Because they kind of got to get off that worm, racist, white Jew, LGBT, corporate dog path that you see in the churches and the corporations, the government, police, military, what have you. They got to get off that worm path. Or they're not going to want to roll with me. If they don't do that, then I'm a strange black guy whose behavior they don't understand because I come from above, they come from below. And so, again, they're also trying to find their place. If I was to say, hey, how dare you be with a guy who pretends to be from the church, okay? You see how it feels like it's cruel because she's like, it's almost like these people are from the Philippines. They're not comfortable with being here. And sometimes when your parents are from another country, you're also not comfortable, okay? And so what had happened is they tried to get me to think of things in terms of sexual immorality in their cases in various ways. Just really quickly, when at the church in East San Jose, I was under mind control. I'm there with my parents. Money is not an issue for me. But one of this female had a Pokemon, and it was one of these females, right? One of the four had a Pokemon like purse or pocketbook or something. And for some reason, my eyes were fixated on. They know how to kind of create that situation, and they mimic mental illness, right? So it's fixated on that purse. And so when it comes time to get mass or whatever, it was Sunday. Excuse me, they're fuming me. I don't go up there. I'm nervous. I don't believe it. I say, no, I'm not going to do that. I don't believe that. I didn't feel moved to do it. So I'm sitting there, and she, so she eventually goes there, and she like tells this guy keeps looking at my purse or whatever. And so there was that awkward situation, right? I had no intention of stealing it. That was just what happened there. In fact, I had another situation like that when I was, there's two other situations that are similar. One, I was at a church in Blossom Hill, and there's these other people who were visiting this. I was there for Sunday school, and it was a Baptist church, and it was an Armenian church that's like attached to it or something. And so these people come, and they're coming in as we're leaving the room, right? Because they share the whole campus, from what I gather. I think there's a school there too. I can't remember, but this lady put a big old purse on the thing. And for whatever reason, I'm looking at this purse, and then people noticed it was an awkward moment, what have you. And there was another time, right? It's a little bit different here. I was at a church in Morgan Hill. I went to these churches briefly, right? None of these are, I haven't been there like 3 or 4 times tops. Any given church. The one in Morgan Hill, maybe twice, probably once. They're passing the collection cup around, and for some reason I feel moved, and it feels like the government's interfering to kind of, they're going to reach over me to grab the collection cup. So I kind of assist in moving the collection cup over to this white lady there. It looks like she's like a militant, racist white conservative, okay, working at a very liberal church, mind you. Okay, and I don't give a shit who works there. They're all in the wrong, right? And so as I do it, she tugs it like this is my money, right? It was like them sending a message to me saying, we want to steal tithes from God and you. And that's what all those things were about. You see how that comes together? That's one of the patterns that they use, right, to communicate, because they know that God uses patterns to communicate to the righteous. He doesn't appear as a kind of like in a movie manner, in a fairy manner. He uses patterns. So they use patterns, and they like to play God and mimic God and act like worms and act like demons and harass and tease and so on and so forth. So this other time I was in Webb, okay, and there's this female. It's an outdoor adventure class, what have you. To make a long story short, we were doing some kind of group activity, and a series of awkward incidents occurred, okay, that played me out pretty bad and embarrassed me. And again, the government had arranged for that. Okay, so then there was the one at the hospital, okay. I was at the hospital unfairly. To make a long story short, she's with the chaplain. I bring something up like, I've been treated unfairly or something. I can tell by the way the person responds. They're like a deer in headlights. They're completely afraid. They're like, no, don't look at me. Don't tell me, right? But there's also this kind of, I almost want to say military, right? There's this kind of she's standing firm for the evil and for the evil person's cause. Okay. And then what was the last one here? I did the church. I did the web one. Oh yeah, the one on the internet, right? So she matched me, what have you, whoop-de-whoop. She had like a picture with her finger in her mouth, I think, or something, right? Which goes back to the T's, okay? And, she followed the pattern of females who start talking to me, nothing goes wrong whatsoever, with no explanation whatsoever. They just kind of stop talking to me, and it's implied they found someone else, right? So I start saying, that she's a horrible person, and her parents. I think she brings up her dad in her description or something. I say, something about her parents, what have you, because I assume the person was a gang stalker. If they weren't, they didn't have the basic courtesy to say, hey, I'm sorry, this hasn't been working out, or I found someone else, or something like that, right? So it didn't give me a chance to plead my case, didn't really get a chance to get to know him, and I'm disgusted, And other time when that happened, there's one female, she had 5 kids or something, she had 3 kids or something, or whatever, she was Hispanic. She told me flat out, she's like, I found someone else, thanks for, matching me and liking me, whatever. And I was just, at that point, I was like, what, I can accept that, right? It wasn't matter at all. But, that person treated me that way caused me to say those things, and she deserved it, and her family deserved it. Because your family raises you, okay? If you meet the most righteous guy ever, and you're targeting him on top of rejecting him, you're part of the targeting operation, okay? So you see, with all these women, basically, I had treated them fairly to some degree, right? I basically treated them fairly. And the government did things to kind of confuse that. And so when it kind of came together, there was these issues, right? But at the end of the day, it's who's that guy? Okay, if the most righteous woman that ever lived, okay, like, grab my ass or splash water in my face or something, I'm not going to miss that she's a righteous person. I'm going to wonder what the fuck's going on. I'm not going to just reject her or something. And that's part of why women have inferior fucking judgment. It's not just them. I've never in my life seen a woman who can make that call, and I can easily with my eyes closed at fucking 5 years old. Okay, before I forget, again, these females were all very attractive, okay? I wouldn't mind going on a date with one of them. I'd imagine they're all married by now, kids, what have you. And that's that, okay? And, there's other Filipinas that I've come across. I've dated too. One of them, the only person I ever met in person on Tinder was a Filipina female, a different one, and she just wanted to be friends and so on and so forth. So there's that, okay? But there was, others that I dated that, we were more than friends or whatever. There was one with 5 kids from Milpitas named Christina, and there's one named Arlene from Santa Cruz. Both of them were gang stalkers from what I gather. Arlene was very much led by white people. Her best friend was white. She worked for a white person. She had to kind of, it was clear that, people who were like Masons or church people were leading them into immorality, sexual depravity, what have you. It's also important to note that obviously I should have the first pick, not King Charles or Prince Harry or whoever, right? Okay, everyone should, first and foremost, it's the moral order. So we look at, Filipinos, other black guys, Hispanics, no matter who it is, some of these guys try to be nice. There's a difference between righteous and nice. And you have to make the distinction between good and great and greatest and divine and greatest. You see what I'm saying? So when people think about their own races, so I think there might be Filipino guys who say, hey, I don't like the fact that he thinks that he should be elevated above the rest of us. That's very petty. It's selfish, see flesh, selfish, all over again, right? Now, so it is, when we look at it, we'd imagine that white people and Jews and LGBT people, they're quite often extremely emotional and jealous. They're potently jealous, right? Instead of romantic intensity, they have homosexual erotic desire-based intensity and jealousy. Okay, not all of them, at times. And the ones who have more of that tend to be the ones who are more book smart, perhaps. One way or another, they make it to the top of the LGBT pecking order and kind of force the other ones to do their bidding. Very unfortunate, very sad. So they don't have a chance to kind of scramble and make a choice whether they want to come to God or continue being a gay and pagan and Greek or whatever. So now when we look at, on a different topic here, clear that out your mind. We look at white rich people, European royals, the English royals. We'll use an example. I think in America we speak English. We understand the English probably more than any other white European, certainly more than the French, what have you. When we think about these guys, they have a different sense of what female's ideal. Can you imagine an tall English guy married to a short Filipina, or an average height Filipina, or an Indian, or an Ethiopian, or what have you? Eritrean. Okay, a female from Thailand, a Vietnamese female. For the most part, we think of them as being very much dating their own race only. Okay, and if they dated another race, it'd be very awkward. Now, again, I don't think anyone should. No one should be reproducing no matter what. No one should be dating outside the divine order. So I'm not like, hey, I hate that idea or something. It is whatever it is. Whatever the righteous man should think about it is what I think about it, especially when they do things to manipulate my emotions, and things like that. With the fumes, I go on pure logic here. So I might, at some times, when I'm in a very bad mood tomorrow or something, might, be yelling in my car or something. After they provoke me and cause me brain pain, I might feel some kind of way about it. But what I truly believe about it and feel about it, in a very thoughtful state of mind, is whatever the righteous man would feel about it. Whatever exact position, whatever exact feeling, whatever exact belief. Because my religion is universal, pinpoint, and moral precision. It has forged and guided me my whole life. And before I was born, it's what made my soul. Okay, so there's that. So when you look at this, for them to say, hey, we don't want people to look up to them, we don't want them to have the first pick, we don't want them to be seen as the most romantic, this is what causes these things to be spoken on when everyone else would just know. It wouldn't need to be said because they would just know. Other people would do the talking for me because they would know, and they wouldn't be cowards. But they're too cowardly, so I have to say it myself. And even in Proverbs, it warns you, hey, be careful about what praise you give yourself, basically. Okay? And with everything considered, the right thing to do is to say, it's stupid for an English person to think that they could achieve the ideal position of the most romantic relationship. It's stupid for a French person, an Italian person, a Jewish person. It's stupid for anyone else. Okay? And I say these people because these are the most guilty, right? French, Italians, very guilty. They try to convince you of that in popular culture. Very disgraceful, very guilty. I hate to chastise them for it, but it has to be said, especially at this time. And I'm not going to shrink to fit or to not hurt any feelings. Okay. And an English person, the English are going the distance, especially with the Jews, especially where they overlap. Okay, these particular groups that are doing it. These are massive groups, massive networks. It's not like it's a few hundred or a few thousand. We're talking about millions of people around the world, to say the least. And they kind of control all the cultures of the world to a large degree, right? To the point where even the Chinese are in a Western culture. Even the most powerful, perhaps the most powerful of the non-white, non-Jewish nations, they have a Western communist system. They have a Western form of government. They wear suits. The list goes on and on. There's a bunch of Masons there, what have you. Pretty straightforward. So when you look at this thing, it says it is retarded for them to persecute me, to prevent that when they are making a clown fool of themselves by pretending that they are that. It's very sad that it's come to this. For them, people have done things the way they did, but when all is said and done, it has to be said. When I meet my Maker, when I meet my Father in heaven, I'll have said this instead of trying to spare their feelings. Would I be any different from the four Filipinas females who were very attractive in the story I told? Okay. If I had my own reasons to magically, and against all fucking reason, against who I truly am, shrink to fit, right? To alter what my actions to fit some despicable worm's sense of propriety, sense of manners, what have you. Okay? No matter how polite that worm is, it's despicable to superimpose your system on God's system and pretend that it's divine. It's wrong, it's evil, it's disgusting. And it's overkill. It's almost like they deliberately overkilled it with all the children getting raped. Children are literally raped as part of their global system. Sexually assaulted, abused, all kinds of disgusting sex acts I don't want to bring up, but there's common acts that they do with these kids as part of their pederasty culture because they're Neo-Greeks. And that includes all the way in Northern Europe, all over the world. Okay, the token minorities who are called the comprador elite are Neo-Greek, neo-pagan dogs in the footsteps of their white, Jewish, and LGBT masters. So when you look at these females, they rejected Christ in every form. For neo-pagan dogs, be there, you could be blacker than me, I don't care. It's not about race. For people who serve the devil. And they let some concern, like your family's going to die anyway. Okay? That's like fucking, your concern may as well be a rotten apple. You know, you're going to betray Jesus because you're going to run back for a rotten apple. You see what I'm saying? It's rotten. It's going to decay the rest of the way anyway. If your families cannot obey God through me, then let them go. Like it says in the Bible, my family are those who obey the commandments of God. Those who bore fruit like my parents. Not just mere flesh. That's a very shallow connection. It may as well be, someone may as well argue because they have straight hair like they have straight hair, that magically that's all that matters. What really connects you is the bounds, forming the Spirit of God together. The body of Christ connects you. The body of God's Spirit. Okay, I and the Father. Okay, so and the Father and me, them and me and the Father. That's what binds you. Outside of that is nothing but trash. The sexually immoral, the cowardly, the idolaters, the assorted pushovers, the pussies.